There's a lot of social pressure for where women can't even acknowledge or that maybe they want to change course because their friends are going to turn on them. They're going to be ostracized. If you're the type that you can't even share this information with the group text, you are in a matrix. Call you out right now. Come to the light. And it's not about me, it's about a mindset. If you can't even admit to your friends that you want to start doing different, thinking different, and you don't want to be a part of that anymore, and you want to start getting your act together, getting your mind together so that you can get a man for real, because that's the lane that I work in. That's what I'm about. Yes, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Yeah, I'm about marriage and family. I'm not about sending people out to be their best individual self. I'm about getting an individual to the best that they can be so that you can have your best relational and familial self. I don't think all outcomes are equal. I think marriage and family is the best outcome. And if you're a woman that's trapped in a matrix, you can't even say that to other women. You're being stifled.
Hey y'all, welcome to Boundaries and Grace.
Hey y'all, I'm Taylor Chandler. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist helping people break negative relationship patterns. This is part 2 of Last Train Out, my final appeal to women. We talked about body and attitude. Today we're going to talk about my theories on why this is a problem for women, Black women in particular, and my ideas on how to handle it. Y'all, I have so much that we really need to get started, okay? This is gonna take a while. Let me know how you're doing. You know me, I'm very call and response. The more you give me in the chat and all the little emojis coming out the side, the more I give you. Last week, I couldn't even get through all of the content. It was too much for one episode, so we had to split it up. And we are going to get through it all today. We're going to talk about why this is happening. That's the first part of part 2. Why is this happening? Why are Black marriages failing at the highest rate? Why are Black women getting married at the lowest rate? Why are Black children born with only one parent at the highest rate? Why are Black people and Black women in particular topping the charts in the worst sociocultural categories? Not only should they not be seen as normal, but they should be seen as outright dysfunctional, outright detrimental, outright destructive. Like, not at all. We should not accept this as normal. And we should not accept the circumstances that create these kinds of outcomes. We should not accept the behavior patterns, the thought patterns, the emotional patterns, the psychological the mindset, the psychological factors that create these kind of outcomes. Outright, I reject it. I'm not normalizing it. And at some point, we have to say enough is enough. Enough fluidity, enough choice to do whatever, like enough. At some point, we got to start putting some lines in the sand and say, this works and this doesn't. Let's be real. All right, let me give you a couple of stats. Let's start us off here. Currently, y'all, 30 to 35%. 30 to 35% of Black women are married compared to 50% for other racial groups. It was 50 to 60% of Black marriages end in divorce. 50 to 6. So you normally hear 50% of marriages end in divorce. When we break it down by race, 50 to 60% of Black marriages end in divorce. Now, before I even go any further, I know that when you come with something spicy, you should come with some references. Let me tell you where these numbers are coming from. These are numbers from the census. These are numbers from the CDC. The National Institute of Health, Pew Research Center, National Center for Family and Marriage Research, the American Sociological Review, Marriage and Divorce, Patterns by Race and Ethnicity. So before we even go any further, and thank you all for the participation, before we go any further, I want to ground you all in some research. Of course, I'm going to put these references in the description of the full episode so you can look them up yourself. 50 to 60% of Black marriages end in divorce. 40 to 45% of white marriages end in divorce. 40 to 50% of Hispanic marriages end in divorce. 25 to 35% of Asian marriages end in divorce. Like I said on episode 1, Asians are beating everybody, okay? If you're second to Asians, you're just number 1. Asians are beating everybody across the board in just about every category, all right? So they have the lowest number of marriages ending in divorce. And y'all, the question of marital satisfaction is a different question. So of course, people can stay together that aren't actually happy, but we're gonna talk a bit about why that doesn't matter necessarily. or why that might not should matter as much, especially when you're in certain circumstances like the Black community is, why your happiness shouldn't necessarily be the number one priority. Anyway, y'all, we got so much to talk about. 25 to 35% of Asian marriages end in divorce. Right after that, you've got white and Hispanic are about neck and neck. At the top of the charts for the highest number of marriages ending in divorce, that's 50 to 60%. So when you hear most marriages end in divorce, well, the most of the most are Black people. If you want to talk about Black culture, Black culture includes a whole lot of stuff. And part of Black culture right now, unfortunately, is a high rate of divorce and a low rate of marriage. Okay? So is it you want to talk about you want to share the divorce rate? No, let's talk about, you want to talk Black? Let's go Black. You the highest rate of divorce and the lowest rate of marriage. At the National Institute of Health, from National Institute of Health, at nearly every age, quote, at nearly every age, divorce rates are higher for Black than white women. At nearly every age. Because some people, see, look, this is why you got to have somebody that likes to do a little bit of research, okay? Oh, I meant to show y'all. Goodness, I meant to bring this out. So I'm actually a published research author. Did you know that? You know, I am. It's actually, the first research article was about obese Black women in the Journal of Black Studies. I'll show y'all the next live. I'll bring it. I'll pull up the journal out of some physical copies. So people can take stats and do a whole bunch of things with them. And someone might say something like, well, white people are getting married earlier, and so they're more likely to get divorced. And there is a correlation between people getting married earlier and getting divorced because of kind of reason, right? I didn't know who I was. I didn't know the right questions. I was just doing it, and I didn't know what marriage meant. Okay. But the reality is, even with that being the case, people tend to get divorced more often when they get married earlier. That's a fact. That's a correlation. At the same time, it is also true that at nearly every age, whether it was a young marriage or an older marriage or middle-aged marriage, Black women are still more likely to get divorced than white women. So when we hear the argument, well, we're getting married later, but you're still getting divorced at a higher rate, whether you're getting married at 32 or whether you're getting married at 45 or whether you got married at 21, you're still getting divorced at a higher rate at every age. I'm just painting the picture for how big of an issue and how pervasive this problem is. Like at every angle, we're seeing this as problematic. 70% of Black children are born to unmarried parents, compared to 15 to 25% Asians. 30 to 40% of white children are born to unmarried parents. 50 to 60% of Hispanic children are born to unmarried parents. If you ask me, the 30 to 40 and the 50 to 60 is too high. It's all too high. Anything above 0% for me is too high. I'm a one drop rule in that regard. I'm not like, well, 5% of the kids, that's cool. No, it's not at all. None of it is okay. This is United States. I'm doing United States stats. Speaking of, this is also not because of slavery. We're going to get to that later. Y'all, there are many factors at play as to why these stats are the way that they are. When we're talking about the big pillars of society, we're talking about political, economical, familial, sociocultural, psychological, and environmental. It's a convolution of factors that are creating these outcomes. And on this episode, and always, I'm going to focus on the sociocultural, the psychological, and even environmental factors because that's my lane. But when we're looking at, I'm going to briefly go over some of these other factors. For example, when talking about government factors, there's power and control issues here. There's government agendas. There's different people with different agendas in power, okay? I'm not going to get into all of that. That's not my lane. There are advantages for some people's agenda to breaking up the nuclear family to exploit the vulnerable are women and children. It's always been like that, okay? The most vulnerable population, women, children, the elderly. There's advantages to breaking up the nuclear family because you leave these people uncovered, to say the very least, unprotected, vulnerable, open up to exploitation, misuse, and abuse. cutting the man out of the house is I don't even like the word diabolical, because y'all will take a word and just, it's like a word comes out like on a Monday, and by the end of the week it's just been overused, and just I'm get tired of hearing the same stuff. But if there was one area, if there was one thing that I'd be like, you know what, diabolical is exactly the word, I would say it's this. I would say that finding ways, trying to find, strategically removing the man from the house and strategically invading the psyche to devalue and pervert the man is the most diabolical move that one could do in society. I mean, I'm gonna leave it at that. Again, I can't get into, we can't do it all today. Destabilizing the nucleus. Nuclear family is two parents, children, about two kids. A nuclear family. Nucleus. You know what a nucleus is? Y'all remember what a nucleus is. Proton, neutron, electron, and the energy that they all create together keeps it in this tight bonded. Proton, neutron, electron is bound together by energy. The nuclear family is like a representation of an atom. The nucleus is the center of the atom. The nuclear family is the center of society. If you break down atoms, whatever the thing is, you break it apart. If you break down atoms, whatever the thing is, whatever the structure is, whatever the item, the material thing is broken apart. When you break the nuclear family, you break society apart. Is that clear? When you destabilize the nucleus, when you destabilize the family, you invoke chaos. It absolutely will happen. Chaos will inevitably follow when you break the nucleus. Just like if I break this table, it's going to get chaotic. It's going to break and shatter. There's going to be a mess. It's dangerous. When you break the nuclear family, you break society. Women and children, you become sheep. There's no leader. There's not leadership in the house. And let me tell you this, for single moms who are like, well, I am the mother and the father. First of all, impossible, can't ever happen. There's no way mom can be mom and dad. That's a trick of the mind. It's a delusion. It never happened. There has never been a mother and a father in the same body. Stop it. Better to just call the gap what it is rather than trying to act like it's not. Okay? It's never happened. So when you have single parents who are so burdened by the task of literally staying alive, keeping themselves and their children afloat, they're so distracted by responsibilities, you can't build or think. You can't build when there's no foundation. The nucleus has been shattered. The nuclear family has been broken apart. So there are government benefits to this. You create dependent people, you create chaos, you create dependency. On the economical front, single people spend more. I'm going to give you an example. We're going to talk about the sociocultural aspects, my lane, in just a moment, but I'm going to give you an example of the economical front. This is from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. Single people spend more. There's a benefit to consumerism. There's a benefit to the market when people are spending, and single people spend more. I'm going to give you just one example of what that looks like. A single person household costs about $29,880 a year. That's the estimate. That's the estimation from MIT. A single person household costs almost $30,000 a year. A single person household. A two person household, their costs are about $47,483 per year. The two-person household could split costs down the middle and each contribute about $23,742 per year. A two-person household could split costs. We can't even talk about the 50-50 thing. Black people are about the only group that doesn't understand sharing. MIT is a bunch of geniuses. They're like, hey, two people, split it. And you over here at the bottom of the barrel talking about I can't do 50-50. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds? Do you know how ridiculous it sounds to be in a precarious economic position, a precarious familial position? Precarious is saying it very nicely. A precarious position. And to say, I still won't share. I still won't split the cost. You're in a precarious position. And you talking about I can't do 50-50, but I need to go to Turks and Caicos. So let's go back to what this study said. Okay, MIT. A two-person household could split that about $47,000, $48,000 costs down the middle. Each contributes almost $24,000 per year. Whereas someone living on their own would need to cover that much, those expenses, plus an additional right over $6,000, $6,138. Are y'all following this? Because I'm not gonna stay too long on the economic part. But did you hear what I just said though? Single people are spending more. It costs more to keep any kind of lifestyle going with just a single person. And you're also just spending more frivolously than two-parent households. You're also not putting your money in the same kind of investments, saving for not only your life, investing for your life, but also for generations after you. Single people aren't even doing that because they have no reason to do it. They don't have the same motivations to do it. There's a benefit to government. There's a benefit in certain ways. There's a benefit to the market keeping people single or people staying single. I'll keep going. I'm going to focus on familial, sociocultural, and environmental aspects. I'm not an economic or political expert, all right, but I do believe those forces are at play as to what's going on with marriage and family. Of course, there's other people that are more suited to make those kinds of arguments than me. I just want to give you a little brief overview that this is not just a cultural thing. There's political stuff going on. There's economic stuff going on. We're gonna stay on the sociocultural. One of the biggest markers of society and culture is marriage and family. After I give y'all this, I'm going to give you my theories. I got 3 big points I need to make for you about why I think this is happening with women and Black women in particular. So if you want to hear that, I want you to come back in about 15 minutes. But right now, I set up before I go into all the meat, okay? I'm doing a setup right now. And so this is where we're patient in the process. I'm going to share with you how to handle it. All right, stay with me. Sociocultural. One of the biggest markers of society and culture is marriage and family. Marriage and family represents social structure and stability, cultural continuity and tradition, cultural heritage, customs, rites of passage. The Black community does not have rites of passage. I want someone to put it in the comments, rites of passage. These are transitions into adulthood or family life. For example, in the Jewish community, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, right? You're now an adult. The Black community does not have the American Black community does not have rites of passage. Somebody put it in the comments before I keep going. In marriage and family, this is how stories, knowledge, and practices are shared between generations. See, I'm going to say this right now. See, Black people, we almost as a community don't even know can't even value marriage and family the way that it should be because you don't even know what marriage and family represents. And at this point, y'all, you got to stop with the I never seen it. I don't have any examples. You got to stop. You could go into Chat GPT right now and type in how do I create a family structure? It's going to give you something. You could go into YouTube, YouTube everything else. You could so much information out here. You got to stop with the I never seen it, I never heard about it. Enough is enough. You got enough information out here. You got enough access out here. You got enough access to the wrong people. You got access to the right people. You got to stop with this I never seen it. Because we can't even value marriage and family for what it is because you don't know what it represents and what it would allow for you because you never saw it in your house and then you're not taking the initiative to find out. But you steady checking the NFL stats. And you literally will follow fantasy football in a way that you have never studied family. If you've never had it, you need to start learning about it. If you've never seen it, all the more reason for you to get into it and figure it out, find out. We got too much information at our fingertips to keep talking about I never seen it, I never had it, but you watching Basketball Wives every week, and all you're learning is the destructive behavior. All you're learning is how to play. All you're learning is how to be. You keep reinforcing childish behaviors. You think, yeah, every time you're consuming, you're learning. So you got to be very careful on what you're choosing to consume. You're learning. Your brain is always learning. And let me be even more clear, because if you're not intentionally trying to improve, you're not learning anything new. All you're doing is reinforcing what you already know. So what you known is ratchet, what you known is ghetto, what you known is hood, dysfunctional, whatever. And then you just keep tuning into that, reinforcing it. You're not learning anything new. You're doing the same things you've always done in new and creative ways, and it doesn't work. You got to tune into something that's going to raise your level of awareness to a higher level, a higher way of being, intentionally. Marriage and family is one of the biggest markers of society and culture, represents social structure, stability, cultural continuity, and tradition through things like cultural heritage, customs, rites of passage. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean that you can't learn it. And just because we haven't had it doesn't mean that we can't do it. We need that. Emotional and psychological support, marriage and family provides a sense of belonging, emotional bonds, protection, nurturing, and support. Now, somebody's going to get triggered right here and say, well, my mama didn't do that and my daddy didn't do that. At this, y'all, we got to move on. For too many people in the Black community, your story is that you weren't protected and that you weren't nurtured. And I feel for you. I get it. I hold space for it. You can't stop where your parents stop. And you can't get stuck in that narrative. You can't get stuck in that story. That doesn't have to be the conclusion. Just because your family didn't protect or your family didn't nurture or your family doesn't feel bonded doesn't mean that you can't do it. You can do it. Family allows for that. But we got people trying to do it outside of family. You're trying to get into your little guy circles, get into your little girl circles. But it's in family. It's in this man and this woman becoming married and having children and having a family. There's no glue like that. And just because your family didn't do it doesn't mean that you can't. But if you don't think it's possible, then it's not possible. If you don't actually try, then it can't be done. But this is a part of what families are for. And so in society and culture is for your emotional and psychological support. There's legal and economic significance. Inheritance it's not even something that you can count on from your family, but it's something that you could do for your children. But you can't nobody inherit nothing if ain't nobody to inherit it. Simple. Decision-making authority. Some things like power of attorney. That's why they say things like next of kin. But if you ain't got no kin, who they gonna call? Who's making the decisions? What happens to your estate? You spent all this time on your own. You got a mansion. You got a 6 to 8 bedroom house. You got 9 bathrooms in that thing. Nobody to pass it on to. Something goes wrong with you mentally, nobody to take care of your estates. Oh, now listen to this. As an individual, so you played well in the market. You got what it is that you want materially. You have no next of kin. Something goes wrong with you mentally. Who's taking the power of attorney over your decisions, your estate, everything that you work for? You don't get the familial benefits if there ain't no family. Am I clear? Am I clear enough today? Economic stability through shared resources and responsibilities. That happens through family. Historically, that has been a part of the significance of family. Economic stability through shared resources and responsibility. Sharing. Again, interesting how Black people in the most precarious economic position, American Black people in the most precarious economic position, and the last group trying to share. When other groups know that is through sharing resources, it's through sharing responsibilities that they get into higher positions, that they're more stable as a family. I cannot believe this 50-50 conversation I cannot believe we have so many women that balk at the 50-50 conversation when you're the one that needed the most. You're the one that needed the most. You're the one that need to pull it together the most. The fact that ego and ignorance will be your demise is embarrassing. And marriage and family, of course, is also related to reproduction, the continuity of family and society. Now, one of our issues is that we continue to reproduce without the structure to hold it. So we got, like we said, not even like we said, like as the statistics show us, we got 70% of Black children born to unmarried parents. So the children are being born without a structure to hold that child. Marriage and family is incredibly important. It's been important across history. It's important right now. All right. The decline of marriage and family in the Black community is significant. This is not nothing. I'm going to say what I said at the beginning of this. I outright reject this normalization of chaos, of disorder, of no structure, all these different kinds of, it's like, oh, you can have this family structure, you can have that family structure, you got all this choice. It's like you in the bread aisle, you can get this brand or that brand or that brand, rather than there's one way to do it that has the best outcomes. Let's do it like that. Every way does not produce the same outcomes. And to delude yourself and to continue this narrative that each way is equally viable is an outright lie. It's a lie. It's not true. Every way is not equally viable. A single parent is not as viable as a two-parent household for many reasons: economic, emotional, psychological. Every way is not equally viable. It's a lie. See, my thing is this: if you're going to do it, at least tell the truth. Be like, I'm going to do it, and because I'm going to do this as a one-parent house, I also acknowledge my child will be less emotionally supported. My child will be less financially supported because we only got one income. I cannot believe these arguments thinking that child support going to replace the psychological support of a father. I cannot believe this. I'm so disturbed. Every way is not equally viable. I reject that because it's not true. People are here trying to twist things up, and people just be saying stuff. Like, just because you say it is true. Well, my kid is equally, they're going to have all the same benefits as a two-parent house. No, they're not. Period. No, they're not. Cut it out. If you're going to do it, at least stand on it. If you're going to do it, acknowledge everything else. Don't lie to yourself, to your kids, to us, as if ain't nothing going to be different. It's very different. Oh, it's very different. Listen, y'all, the negative stats I shared earlier about marriage and divorce are not all because people will say, well, it's slavery. Slavery did this. Oh, really? This is from the National Institute of Health. Listen to this. Listen to this very carefully. Are you ready? Let's dispel this myth about slavery. Although social scientists sometimes attribute racial differences in family patterns to long-run historical influences, such as the legacy of slavery, marriage was common among Black families in the early 20th century. Thus, the racial divergence we see now in marriage formation is relatively recent. This is what it's saying that it was common in Black families in the early 20th century. The differences that we're seeing among race groups when it comes to marriage formation, becoming married, is relatively recent. From 1890 through 1940, Black women tended to marry earlier than white women did. And in the mid 20th century, first marriage timing was similar for Black and white women. Are y'all following that so far? In 1950, Black women aged 40 to 44 were actually more likely to have ever married than were white women of the same age. This is a generation above us. 1950, Black women aged 40 to 44. Y'all, the biological time clock has never changed. It's always been the same. When you were viable to have a healthy pregnancy and not. These are Black women aged 40 to 44 were more likely to have ever married than white women of the same age. 1950. That is, do the math. That's just 70 years ago. On a timeline, y'all, that's yesterday. That's this morning. 70 years ago was right here. It was just 1950. That's a very different reality than we're in right now. Listen to this. And then I'm going to go into my theories. Racial differences in marriage remained modest as recently as 1970. We're getting even closer to our time. Racial differences in marriage were modest, so they weren't these significant gaps. Listen to the rate of change. 1970, 94.8% of white women and 92.2% of Black women had ever been married. Did you hear that? That's almost 100%. 94.5%, 95% of white women were married. 92% of Black women were married. Had ever been married. This is not including like in the group who had been divorced, but this is who had ever been married. 94.8% of white women, 92.2% of Black women had ever been married. That was 1970. If you remember at the beginning of this episode, 30 to 35% of Black women are married currently, are now married. 40 to 45% of Black women in the United States have ever been married. But in 1970, it was 92.2%. That is an incredible downward trend, extraordinary decline in a very, very short amount of time, 50 years. All right, now I think we set it up. Let's go ahead and get into this. Okay. My theories on why Black women have such an issue. All right, why are we seeing this huge, gigantic, big freaking drop? Now, there are many reasons for this. I'm going to give you just three. It's not slavery. It's not history. All right, I've already talked about body and attitude in part 1. If you haven't seen that, go to YouTube, season 12, episode 4 on Boundaries and Grace. It's also on Apple, Spotify, and Audible. We're going to talk about the social context here and why I think this is such an issue for women, Black women in particular. Number 1, Black women are supported by a massive group which participates in groupthink and is effectively an echo chamber, an organization. Almost like a sorority, okay? A big old sisterhood who makes you recite certain things in order for you to be one of them. If you don't, you're ostracized. You're not one of them. This is a massive group. Somebody asked me recently on one of my reels, Taylor, well, where can I find the good women? Where can I find the good women? The thing is, these issues are so pervasive. It's everywhere. It's just that the women who aren't this way are in the minority everywhere. The bad stuff is everywhere. It has pervaded everything, church included. Yeah, it used to be you could go to church. It used to be you safe at church. It's definitely not. Matter of fact, those are some of the most manipulative types I've seen, because it's a gross spiritual manipulation in disguise. Okay. I was just thinking the same thing. They're bigger than the Beehive. Whatever you think the Beehive is, 10x it. These are people, you don't got to be a Beyonce fan, but you probably are. But you don't got to be a Beyonce fan. When I went up against Beyonce, I went up against the Beehive like 2 years ago. Tough group. Tough group. Tell you that. When a black woman comes up against a person who challenges them, they can separate from them and feel supported and right with a huge mass of their own group. In other words, when black women who are a part of this massive group, if they are ever confronted with the truth, if they're ever confronted with the deficiencies, if they're ever confronted with these realities, they are effectively able to dismiss, deny, and disconnect from that reality and be supported by a massive group who will reinforce the denial, who will reinforce destructive thinking, who will reinforce low values, who will reinforce these things. So this is one of the reasons that I believe that black women have such an issue. It's a massive group that participates in groupthink, not independent thinking, but groupthink. Let me tell you the definition of groupthink. Groupthink is the practice of thinking or making decisions as a group in a way that discourages creativity or individual responsibility. If you come up against them as a woman, you're some kind of pick-me. You're white. They'll find anything to try to insult you because rationally they can't really come against you. So it just becomes an emotional confrontation where they want to tease you. It's very childish. They want to tease you. They want to try to push your buttons. They want to try to reject you. They want to try to isolate you. They want to try to squeeze you out because they don't really have a rational argument. You'll be ostracized by them. When I was younger, right, I was teased for being too white. I mean, I talked too proper, from the way that I dressed to the way that I was, to the way that things that I was interested in, my friend groups. So, I'm used to not being one of them. Some of y'all are too. I had values instilled in me at an early age, mainly through action. My grandmother, especially, much more verbal with me than anybody else. But the values were instilled at a very young age. And then I believe that I just I have a natural calling and inclination to a certain way of being. I was drawn to this person, like these types of people and this way of being. And when I was younger, I didn't know that it was a good thing. I thought it was actually a bad thing because among other Black people, this was so unacceptable. So from a very young age, you still using those tactics unconsciously because they get it from their parents. The kids are using these tactics of rejecting you if you don't recite, if you don't behave the way that they do. Now, as we become adults, the way of being or the things that you say and believe become more clarified and complex as we get older. But this shows up when you're very young. And that was very not Black. Black people are the only group, Black women, especially. Black men have it too. I want to talk about women because they have the most issues out of all the people that have the issues. Black women have the support of a massive group that participates in ratchet behavior and ratchet thinking. A massive group. Now, white, Asian, and Hispanic clients, they got ratchet people, but they don't have a massive support system of ratchets. They don't have the same support. That makes a huge difference. Because if you're going to be ratchet and Asian, especially, if you're going to be ratchet and Hispanic, if you're going to be ratchet and white, you can do that, but they don't have a safe space for you. You can do that, but you had to go away from the group to do that. They don't house you. They don't nurture that. The big groups of the other groups, rejects it. The Black community, the massive group, accepts it and nurtures it. It's totally backwards. Rather than sending the ratchets away, the massive Black groups bring the ratchets. There's a safe space for them. Other groups don't have that. So it helps Black women to continue the behaviors. When they're confronted, you look like the minority because you are the minority that confronts that culture, that is counter Black culture. When you confront it, you're the minority and they're the majority. This is the only group, this is the culture where the ratchets, the ghetto, has the power socially. The nerds, the high value minded people. When I'm talking about high values, I'm talking about pro-social values. I'm talking about generosity, respect, honor, faithfulness, kindness. I'm talking about community. I'm talking about high values, your way of being. So the people like us, we in the Black community are the rejects. In other groups, though, they're the rejects. In other groups, the ratchets are the rejects. In other groups, that's for entertainment for them. They go home doing the right thing. In other groups, the smart people are elevated because they know you're the key to our progress. In our group, the smart ones are rejected and they think you trying to, oppress them. It's interesting. You're so backwards. You think we trying to oppress you. We trying to free you. You're trying to be such an individual, you don't know how to be together. You think we want to crush your individuality. No, we're just trying to be a family. Come on. So it's the only group where the ghettos, the ratchets got the power. Well, folks, it's about time that we flip the scales. Because you know what the reality is? We really are the ones, this is a call to action, I think. We really are the ones that have the power. We're really the ones that have the progress. We're really the ones that have the right mindset. We got to stop worrying about them and understand that we got to separate. I've been saying that, but it's time now. It's time now. It's time now. We got to separate. It looks on the outside like they're the ones that got the power because they're the ones that got the ears and the eyes on them. But it's really the ones like us. It's really the ones like us. So we're the minority of the Black group, but we really got the most power because we got the right mind. Don't be confused. We need to stop being confused about that. The numbers don't matter nearly as much as in they got big numbers, y'all, but we actually have we got big brain. And some of us, it's not IQ, and I'm not even trying to be shady. IQ is not everybody's strength, but that's heart and it's spirit, and it's your spirit is aligned in the right direction. You don't gotta be an engineer, right? But your spirit is aligned with the higher values, and those are the people that make the progress in society. The ratchets drown, but the thing is, we keep lifting them up, and we keep giving them attention, we keep giving them energy, and we're keeping them afloat. We are keeping them afloat. They can't do it on their own. And then we don't think that there's enough of us to really do anything. But the reality is a little bit of us goes a longer way than a whole lot of them. Cooley, I'm glad you asked. There actually is a sign up. Literally, I got a sign up called Preferred Option in my link tree. It's a community that we're gonna build. We're gonna build stuff out. This is the next thing. There's literally a sign up in my link tree called Preferred Option for people who are of this mind. So white, Asian, and Hispanic groups, they don't have the same type of support from the ratchets. Their ratchets are rejected. Our ratchets are accepted. I believe we need to change that. Their best bet, the other groups, right? Their best bet, hear me, their best bet, any kind of ratchet behavior, any kind of dysfunctional, destructive behavior, their white, Asian, Hispanic, their best bet is to correct themselves because there are true consequences if they don't from their group. There's consequences in their society if they don't correct themselves. We don't have that. We don't have that. So the other groups, they got to correct themselves to stay in the group. Black women can refuse to correct themselves and they still get to stay in the group. This is basic social pressure. There is social pressure in other groups to be different and to be better. It comes from first within the family, literally in the house, and then from the local and society, and then from their larger worldwide groups. There is social pressure to correct themselves. Black people don't have social pressure to correct. There's not enough pressure to stay aligned in the right direction. So it just falls apart. If you go out of order, you keep going. There's not enough guardrails, and we don't have enough accountability. People standing up and saying, no, we don't do that. No, that's not acceptable. No, we don't live like that. No, it's not cute. No, it's not funny. No, we don't do it. And if you're going to do it, you don't get to do it in the house. If you can't align with these pro-social values, you can't be in the community because you are inherently destructive to the community. How can we keep you in here when you tear things down? Right? I'm not for inclusivity of everything. And I can accept and respect is a different thing, but I don't include everything. I got to exclude in my life. I got to exclude certain behaviors. I got to exclude certain mindsets. I got to exclude certain values. I got to exclude certain behaviors. I got to exclude certain thought patterns, feeling patterns, because the way that you do is destructive. And I exclude. I don't include everybody. I can respect you, but you got to stay over there. And I think as a Black community, we need to be more clear on where you draw the line. You got to include everything. You got to include everybody. I don't. I can't. I won't. We have been way too inclusive in the Black community, so flexible, so damn free that it's fallen apart. And especially because you have taken men out. I'm gonna circle back to the beginning of this conversation. You have taken men out of the house, strategically invaded the psyche of the woman. So now the government don't gotta take him out the house. The woman will keep him out of the house on her own. He cannot correct the distortions and the perversions, and he cannot protect it from coming in the house. The mother is outside of the house. She don't even know what's going inside of the house. And now we have chaos. Y'all, I don't want to make this conversation too big. I'm going to get back to the notes. This type of sorority that the Black women have, this type of sisterhood thing, this big, massive group having similar values, similar behaviors, similar thought patterns. I mean, don't you think it's strange how like most Black women like appear the same, talk the same, use the same language, even use the same cadence? Isn't that strange to you? Yeah, that's groupthink. They're all trying to be one. Like, it's like an image of like the Black girl, and they try to all do it because it allows them to be accepted by each other. Cult-like mindset, exactly. It's essentially a cult. It's a cult-like mindset, and if you don't behave the way that they say to, then you're out of here. Now, I'm not against all cults. I'm not against all cults. I'm against anti-social cults. I'm against anti-social culture. And at this point, we can see through the statistics that Black women are aligned with anti-social values in general. We see that through the incredibly high numbers that we don't see in any other races, and we don't see it in Black men. It is a particular group that is going in a destructive direction. And because we can see it showing up, manifesting in the divorces, in the single parent houses, in the children that are damn falling apart, we know that there must be values that they are aligned with that are not aligned with, progress that are not aligned with, pro-social values that are not aligned with a higher way of being. They can't be, because it would not produce the type of results that we're seeing. So this cult-like mindset, this is like a perverted rites of passage. See, Black community does not have rites of passage as a whole. All right, the transition to a formal transition to adulthood. It's as if the girls, with their transition into adulthood, it's like a perverted rite of passage. There's not a formalized way and clear identified criteria for the transition from girlhood to womanhood. And so if there's not direction, if there's not a guiding direction in the right direction, you will go off track. You're going to be pulled by something, but you're not being pulled in the right direction. You're not being pushed in the right direction. So these ratchets, this group, this cult-like mindset, this sisterhood sorority thing. It's like they get the young girls to think in ways that prevents them from partnering up, that prevents them from building with a man, rather than telling girls how this is how economics works. This is what it means to share. This is what it means for a man and woman to build together. This is what it means to create something to create your own business that can fund your life and help to fund your children. Instead of that is, you don't need a man. Never go 50-50. X out 90% of all men based on his physical appearance and his money. And basically leave these young women thinking that there's no value in a man, or that the only men that have value are about 5% of the men, basically making men a non-option for them. This is a perverted rites of passage. Instead of girls learning how to be women and wives, they're learning how to be single and alone. They're learning how to be independent outside of family. They're learning to reject family. They're learning to pervert family. They're learning to call family, the nuclear family, is something of old. They're not even supposed to recognize it. Create your own. This is a perverted rites of passage. Y'all, do you hear what I'm saying? In order to become a woman, you actually learning how to not be in family, how to not be a part of a man. So you go in exactly the wrong direction. This perverted rites of passage keeps these women single, alone, childish. I've seen groups of single women gathering, apparently trying to, they're like, hey, here's a safe place. Here's a safe place for you Black women. But in those groups, women, are you being shown how to get partnered, or are you just in groups? Are you being shown how to get partnered? Are you being taught about family, about partnership, about the reality of marriage and family, or are you just gathering in groups? The path to partnership, the path to pro-social, the path to marriage, there needs to be illuminated. I want women to stop just gathering in groups. Look right there. Sammy said, sadly, you see a lot of these groups in churches too. I know. Let me screenshot. You see a lot of these groups in churches too. So it's like a facade. It's like a group of girls. But I'm like, what are they teaching you? How to get partnered, how to fix what it is that you need fixing, or are you just in comfort circles? Are you being shown how to be in marriage, how to be in family, how? Not just how to be a good sis. You don't just need awareness of a problem that you have. First of all, you got to even acknowledge you have a problem. You need to have awareness you have a problem, and you need awareness of the solution. In my opinion, these are my ideas right here, y'all. In my opinion, you need to be in a group of women that is helping you to get out of the group of women. You need to be in a group of women. You need to be with women who are helping you to go get your man, like get out of here. It's strange to me, very strange to me, when women want to keep younger women especially, like to themselves. There's not a path out. They invite them in. Y'all, this is very uncomfortable for me to talk about. But it's like they invite them in and they keep them in the house, but they're not teaching them how to get out of the house. All right, next thing, y'all. This is my theories, y'all. Some of my ideas on why Black women have such an issue with marriage and family, and basically getting on board with what essentially, like, all men are in agreement of what's needed in order to restore family. And Black women are going in a starkly different direction. Why is that happening? Y'all understand this. Black women tend to feel beat down, okay? Tend to feel left behind, disliked, unwanted. All right. That's a common experience that many Black women have. All right. Or at least have internalized. What I mean by internalized is you might not even be unwanted, but because of some kind of internalized trauma, absorbed trauma that you have taken in from like a general Black experience or stories you've heard, you've now internalized trauma, and it makes you feel worse about yourself, even if you as an individual haven't gone through it yourself. And they can think that corrections, suggestions, accountability is another form of an attack, because Black women are so often feeling attacked, just like Black men often feel attacked. I have men, Black men, it's always Black men, that when I'm holding men accountable before they even listen to the whole reel, it's Black men who are like, how are you saying anything about me? I mean, so Black people are just so used to being attacked. You're so used to being a victim, you can't even imagine somebody's here to help. You can't even imagine. You so ready, you so tight, ready to fight. I think that's getting in the way of Black women getting on track. There's a defensiveness. We talked about a little bit about that last episode. But I have to say this. Why is it hard to trust people with better results than you? I believe that we are being gaslit by the cult to believe that we all out to get them. I think that, like Marlena's saying, they don't want to do the work. I think it's easier for them to project their lack of trust onto us, people who are trying to help, their lack of trust or some kind of, sometimes they can't even articulate that. They just got to insult you the way that you look, or your mama or something. I don't know. I don't think it's because how is it that you don't trust people that have better results than you? If you're in the worst positions in these categories, it's kind of hard to believe that people that have a better way are the least trustworthy. No, I think you just don't want to hear it. I think you just don't want to be challenged to be better. I'm not buying the Black women are always being beat down and attacked. I'm not buying that anymore. There's a victim story. There's a convenient victim story that Black women in general like to pull that card where they get to do this and say, you don't get to hurt me. You don't get to hurt me. I'm always getting hurt. And they use a victim story to deflect accountability away, as if the truth hurts so bad. They don't have the mental fortitude to accept a new perspective and to do a different, to change course. The mind is weak. No one's around to reflect your bad behavior to them. Remember, cult-like mindset, groupthink. No one's around to reflect their bad behavior back to them. You've been enabled, dumbed down by media, absorbed messages that you're queens, goddesses, or some superior being without having to exhibit any sort of aligned character, divine character especially, or behavior. This is true entitlement. Men and women should stop reinforcing these baseless claims. Women should be encouraged to think highly of themselves. I'm going to say that again. Thank you, Vito. Women should be encouraged to think highly of themselves and act that way with clear criteria of what high values are and accountability to uphold those values. Women should be consistent, accountable, responsible. So the mind has gotten very weak. Scrolling all day on social media. Vito says put it in a book, but some of y'all won't even read a book. The mind is weak. Sitting watching Netflix and dumb shows of people acting stupid, thinking that you're not going to get stupider. You're going to get dumber. You're dumbing yourself down. The representation of you is silly and clownish. You've really come to believe that you have some kind of, thanks for buying a badge, some kind of divine right, some kind of divine, you know what that is? That divine right, divine destiny kind of thing. This idea that kings and queens, a monarchy, there's some the divine mandate from God that you should be a king or a queen. The reality is, there's no divine right to your queendom. Do you have to actually behave in that way? Women should be encouraged to think highly of themselves and be challenged to uphold the behaviors that are aligned with that vision of themselves. Women should be consistent, accountable, responsible. Understand this, y'all. Thanks, Conrad, for buying a badge. Understand this, y'all. This is a masculine aspect of a woman. She has to gain traction and maintain it. She has to do something. This is where it's interesting. We have so many contradictions among women right now. We don't have a very clear idea of what a balanced woman and a highly productive woman is. Queen metaphorically refers to confidence, dignity, grace, but it demands leadership, accountability, and emotional intelligence. Queens are strategic, wise, make difficult decisions if we're going to talk about queen. Hard work, sacrifice, they earn respect and trust. They don't demand their status, they work for it. You work for it. It's a direct result of your actions and character. It's not an entitlement. It's not a title that is just bestowed upon you because of your birth. That's a fantasy world. And being in that world is disconnecting you from the reality of this world. Men are in reality. They're forced to be in reality. This is a bad situation. It's getting worse. It's obvious. Let's talk about how we should handle this. It's going to take about 5 minutes and then we're going to go. At this point, y'all, it's not a good use of time to try to shake women out of a stupor. It's not a good use of time. That's what I think. It's not a good use of time. These are my thoughts. It's not a good use of time to try to shake women out of a stupor. The amount of resistance I face from women has truly been exhausting. Meanwhile, my male clients, y'all, I promise, this is true. I have male clients and have female clients. In general, y'all, my male clients have been seriously open to feedback, taking notes, applying knowledge and wisdom, asking questions. Not every man, but most. While most women are stuck in old patterns, making excuses as to why they won't change, deflecting blame to others, especially men. I think they think I'm going to validate and appease them, but I push back. When I challenge men on their toxic behaviors and thought and emotional patterns, their ears open because it seems that they want to learn how to be a better person. I get a lot of resistance from women in that regard. It's like it doesn't matter what's right. It just matters if they agree or if it feels good. So y'all, this is obviously an exhausting endeavor. Black women have had the most resistance to accountability, not just in my practice, but we just see it across the board. Of course, I'm not the only one saying this. I'm just another voice that's affirming that this is the case. Black women seem to have, I don't get any pleasure saying this, y'all. I think this is super sad. Black women seem to have trouble taking responsibility for their own impact on their lives and have a hard time taking responsibility for course correcting in order to change. Black women have resisted coming to the table. Sometimes just because they want to appease their friends. I was going to make this point earlier. You know, women, it's so sad. I have almost a 50-50 split between men and women followers on my page, but women are largely silent and they hardly repost. We talked about social pressure earlier, y'all. This episode is a lot. That's what was a lot. I just had to get a lot out because I got to move on from this topic. But there's a lot of social pressure for where women can't even acknowledge because of the cult. They can't even acknowledge that they think reasonably or rationally, or that maybe they want to change course because their friends are going to turn on them. They're going to be ostracized. So women who are following along with the content, they're not even engaging. They're not commenting. They're not liking. They're not sharing. Because if their friends find out, I promise you, y'all, this is the case. I have women who I work with one-on-one who are super into the work, but online they got to show something different. It's sad. So women have resisted coming to the table and even interacting with, even standing on reason, because they know the consequences that they're going to face with other women. Y'all get that? They want to appease their friends. And it's so sad. If you're a woman like that, come out. We have to move on to people who already get it, men who are already on board, women who are already on board. We cannot stay here with y'all anymore. But women, for real, like if you're listening to this, and I know y'all listen to this, I know y'all listen to the podcast, I know you're on YouTube, I know you're on Apple, I know you're on Spotify, I know you're on Audible, you listen to this. If you the type that you can't even share this information with the group text, you are in a matrix. Call you out right now. Come on. This is an altar call. This is an altar call, y'all. Altar call. Come to the light. Come to the light. Come to the light. Okay? If you feel like you can't even share this information, you can't even comment on a reel, you can't put nothing, and it's not about me, it's about a mindset. If you can't even admit to your friends that you want to start doing different, thinking different, and you don't want to be a part of that anymore, and you want to start, like getting your act together, getting your mind together, getting your work together so that you can get a man for real, because that's the lane that I work in. There's other reasons why you might do it, but I'm in the relational lane. And so yes, that's what I'm about. Yes, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Yeah, I'm about marriage and family. I'm not about sending people out to be their best individual self. I'm about getting an individual to the best that they can be so that you can have your best relational and familial self. That's what I'm about. I'm a marriage and family therapist. I don't think all outcomes are equal. I think marriage and family is the best outcome. Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think. And if you're a woman that's trapped in a matrix where you can't even say that to other women, you are, I already said it, you in a prison that is preventing your growth. You are among people that you clearly know. Listen to me. You clearly know it's not in your best interest because you sneak listening. You sneak listening to the stuff. I know it's y'all. I know because I got almost a 50-50 split of men and women. Men are engaging, women are hiding. Women are hiding. You sneak listening. You sneak chicken notes because you can't even in your own house or with your own friends or with your own mother, you can't even stand on what it is that you really want because you know that you're going to get some pushback. You know you're going to get rejection from them. Y'all, that's a major issue. Come to the light. Come to the light. Come to the light. Come on out of there. You're being stifled. Men are progressing, doing, and self-actualizing. Women are stagnating, watching, and just talking. So, y'all, that was a tough episode, y'all. I had to get that out. I had to get this information out, get some of these ideas out. This was a very different episode than I've done in a long time. But I appreciate y'all being here. I have an Industrious Woman workshop for women who have trouble balancing emotions, goals, with relationship. I have an Industrious Woman workshop coming up on Saturday, February 22nd. The link is in my bio. It's $25, 2 hours, Saturday, February 22nd. This is for women who have trouble emotionally connecting with themselves and with men. Okay? This is a rebalancing for women who are ambitious but want relationship. Thank y'all. Who are ambitious but want relationship. So women, I encourage you to do that Saturday the 22nd. After that, I have no idea when I'll do that again. And if you are a man or woman, there is a email sign up in my link tree called Preferred Option. We're going to be building community. We're going to be matching people up based on high value, pro-social values. We are going to be matching people up. We're going to be creating community for people who think like this. We are absolutely separating. We're drawing the line in the sand. We are not one of them and they are not one of us. Okay? We are not one of them and they are not one of us. And we're okay with that. We're drawing a line in the sand. And so if you're interested in that, it's just a quick first, last name, email. That's it. I'm not sending you anything until there's something to send you. I don't even got time to be blowing y'all up like that at all. So that's just for you to make yourself known. It's on my link tree. And that's it, y'all. That's it. Thanks for being with me. See y'all later. I hope you have a good weekend. Bye, y'all. See you. See you next week. See you next week. Bye.